Track 1.
What connects the two of us, apart from each other's character and our appearance, of course, is primarily the same outlook on life. We like the same things and share the same interests, more or less, especially when it comes to free time. We both like to live our lives to the fullest, so we grab every opportunity to indulge in new activities. When we're not working, we're always on the move. As true adventurers, we like to travel around and visit new places. For example, this Friday, we're going to Jacksonville, Florida. We're both keen surfers, and Neptune Beach is a perfect spot for an exciting weekend. We both finish work by 1 on Friday, and as we usually travel light, our bags will already be packed for the airport.
We often travel by car, so we can explore the countryside as well. But this time, we're going by plane to save time and spend more of it enjoying the waves. Our plane leaves around 3 p.m. and arrives after 6 p.m. local time, but we actually fly 2 hours and 15 minutes since there's a 1-hour time difference between the two cities. As soon as we get off the plane, our adventure begins. We're going on a dancing spree. A friend of ours works as a DJ at one of the local clubs, and he's playing on Friday, so it's going to be a lively start of the weekend, 1 in a row. You see, we're getting married in September, and we want to make the most of our summer, which doesn't mean we'll stop having fun after that. No way. We'll keep enjoying ourselves as much and as long as we can, even when we're 3 or 4 or 5.
You know those crazy fun families from movies such as Home Alone who forget a kid at home when they're traveling or lose suitcases on the streets? Well, there are times when I think we're one of them. Maybe that's because I'm a single mom, so it's not always easy to deal with the pressures of life. Listen to what happened to us once, some years ago. My twin children and I are sitting in the kitchen and having breakfast at ease before leaving for school. We're chatting about their school trip the next day and all the things they should take with them, including my son's guitar, which their teacher considered a must for the long bus ride. Suddenly, my cell phone rings and I hear the teacher's irritated voice. "Mrs. Jenkins, where are you and your children? We're waiting only for you to leave." "Well, we're just having breakfast," I admit confusedly, feeling a huge lump forming in my throat. "Come again?" she exclaims. Silence. "Mrs. Jenkins," she says after regaining self-control, "I have 20 plus children here on the bus and twice as many parents who are already getting impatient. Are your children coming with us or not?" "Of course they are," I explain, and I apologize a million times for misunderstanding about the exact trip date. I promise her we'll be there soon. That moment, the chaos begins. I order my kids to pack all the things that we were just talking about and pack them at the speed of light. The kids are already dashing through the house, up and down the stairs, collecting all they need. Me? I'm moving frantically about the kitchen and thrusting ham and veggies into their sandwiches. Soon, they're back down and charge into the kitchen. I'm done with the food and charge out of the kitchen. We bang into each other and drop half the things. Somebody's shouting, somebody's whining, and somebody yells repeatedly, "Let's go, let's go." My daughter snatches the backpacks, my son grabs the guitar, and I seize the car keys. Luckily, just 15 minutes later, we arrive at the meeting point. The initial anger and embarrassment of the direct encounter with the others get replaced with laughter and cheerful and wishes for the kids' safe journey. When I think of it now, no wonder my son and daughter are ever ready for instant action. As for me, yes, the life of a single parent can be really demanding at times, but you learn the lesson and move on.
Track 2.
Certain natural and man-made attractions have always inspired people to estimate their beauty and value. This is how people first came up with the idea of compiling a list of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. The original list used to include some of the most prominent architectural and sculptural achievements of the ancient world. The list has changed in time, as the only still existing wonder among these are the pyramids of Giza. So let's see what miraculous structures are listed as the new 7 wonders of the world. 1. The Great Wall of China. The construction of this amazing structure started centuries before the modern era and lasted during different Chinese dynasties for 2 millennia. At first, various independent states built their own walls to protect themselves from constant raids by northern tribes. These were later unified into a unique structure by Emperor Qinshi-Huang. However, its best-known part was built between the 14th and the 17th centuries AD during the Ming dynasty. The length of this section of the wall is 8,851 kilometers, and the total length of the Great Wall is 21,190. 2. Chichen Itza. The Mayan city of Chichen Itza, located on the Yucatan Peninsula, is one of the most visited archaeological sites in Mexico. Among its famous monuments and temples is the Kukulkan Pyramid, also known as El Castillo, the castle. With its 365 steps, which represent the number of days in the solar year, it is a unique testimony to the Mayans' astronomical abilities. Chichen Itza was not only a place where people would perform religious rites and ceremonies. This famous pre-Hispanic city was also a center of regional trade and ritual ball games. During the 1400s, after a few centuries of prosperity, the city faced its sudden and mysterious end. 3. Petra. Petra, the historical archaeological city in southern Jordan, is not only known for its beautiful buildings carved in sandstone, which would change colors with the shifting sun. The city used to be an important regional trading hub of nomadic Arabs as well. It reached the greatest prosperity in the 1st century AD, but the flourishing trading business, the city's architectural beauty, and a well-developed watering system also made it prey to the Greeks and Romans. Petra soon lost, and several major earthquakes followed and destroyed many structures. Soon after that, Petra became an abandoned place. 4. Machu Picchu. This important archaeological site in Peru is located high in the Andes and has a very characteristic shape recognizable for agricultural terraces, temples, and residential areas. At first, it was wrongly believed to be the main stronghold of the Incas in their struggle against Spanish rule. Some people thought that it used to be home to religious women who lived in the isolation of convents. According to others, it was a royal retreat or possibly a pilgrimage site. Despite all the confusion related to its purpose, Machu Picchu remains one of the most important pre-Columbian ruins that has remained almost intact. 5. Christ the Redeemer. The huge statue of Jesus Christ the Redeemer found its place on top of Mount Corcovado in Rio de Janeiro shortly after World War I. In fear of godlessness, Brazilians felt the need for a symbol of worship and got this colossal statue in 1931. The statue itself is 30 meters tall and stands on a massive base which adds 8 more meters to the whole of the monument's height. With Christ's arms outstretched, the statue is 28 meters wide. As such, it represents the largest Art Deco sculpture in the world. The statue is made of reinforced concrete, which is used for making tall buildings, and is covered in about 6 million tiles. Unfortunately, it is not completely lightning-proof, because of which it has once already been slightly damaged. 6. The Colosseum. The Colosseum, one of the world's most visited sightseeing attractions, dates back to the 1st century. It was built by order of the Roman Emperor Vespasian of the Flavian dynasty. The huge amphitheater is 48 meters tall, with the central arena measuring 189 by 156 meters, and the capacity of holding up to 50,000 spectators. In this huge arena, ancient Romans would enjoy gladiator fights, which also included close encounters between men and wild animals. Some estimates show that about 500,000 people were killed in the Colosseum, and some animal species practically made extinct due to these fights. As a masterpiece of engineering, this amazing structure represents an important cultural site of the present and holds grave secrets of the past. 7. The Taj Mahal. The city of Agra in India holds one of the most beautiful monuments in the world. The Taj Mahal, the famous mausoleum complex, was built by Emperor Shah Jahan in the 17th century in honor of his wife Mumtaz Mahal, who died while giving birth to their 14th child. Made of white marble with semi-precious stones in various patterns, the complex took more than 20 years and 20,000 workers to be built. It is also known for its spacious garden, which includes a reflecting pool. Shah Jahan devoted this immense structure to his wife's undying love. As a symbol of India's rich history, the Taj Mahal attracts about 7 to 8 million visitors every year and has thus deserved to be included among the new 7 wonders of the world.
Track 3.
Today, the city of Detroit is famous for its basketball team, for the rapper Eminem, who grew up in this city, for once being the picture of the American dream, and for almost going bankrupt a few years ago. However, it is a less-known fact that Detroit played a key role in the development of popular music in America. Motown, an American record company from Detroit, produced music that changed America. Over half a century ago, on January 12, 1959, a young African-American songwriter named Berry Gordy Jr. was working in the automobile industry, where he got the idea for founding a music company. He saw how beautiful cars were made from simple metal parts, and he thought that the same could be done in music. He set up his company with a loan of $800 from his family, and the company's first name was Tamla Records. Later, on April 14, 1960, it became the Motown. The name, a combination of the words motor and town, also became a nickname for Detroit. The premises of Motown were housed at 2648 West Grand Boulevard in Detroit, and the sign Hitsville, USA was proudly displayed over the front door. The house was located in a row of houses that used to belong to rich people, but by that time had become a rundown area. Hitsville, USA was not just a location. Very soon it became a hit factory, and history would be made there. Before Motown, not many people in America had listened to music written and African Americans, and Motown changed that. It made African American musicians famous, and it brought people together. Together with its music, Motown produced social and cultural change and made its mark not just in the music industry, but society at large. The sound they produced has become one of the most significant musical accomplishments and stunning success stories of the 20th century. Motown's music touched people of all ages and races. A key element in Gordy's strategy was to make his records appeal to everyone, which is how and why he came up with the slogan, "The Sound of You." The key element of his early plans was for their album covers not to show the performers. Potential record buyers had no idea whether they were black or white. Even biographical details of Motown artists were difficult to get a hold of. All the public could do was decide whether they liked the records or not. For the most part, they loved them. Later, Gordy would boast, "Whether you were black, white, green, or blue, you could relate to our music." From the very beginning, Motown achieved spectacular success as a small record company. During the 1960s, Motown released 535 singles in the USA. Of these, 357 made R&B charts and/or pop charts. It had 79 records in the top 10 of the Billboard Hot 100 record chart between 1960 and 1969. In the late 80s and 90s, all of Motown's major artists were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. No other record company in history has exerted such an enormous influence on both the style and the substance of popular music and culture. With more than 180 #1 hit songs worldwide and counting, that influence is still being felt today, from pop to hip. In 2009, Motown celebrated the 50th anniversary of the company's founding. The Motown sound is a worldwide phenomenon beloved by millions to this day. Today, Motown is not only the greatest pop music hit factory ever heard, but an institution, a state of mind, a way of life, a style, the sound of young America. The distinctive upbeat and uplifting music brought together pop and soul, white and black, old and young like never before, and continues to this day. Motown became the heartbeat of American pop music. Some of the most popular artists who recorded for this company were Diana Ross and the Supremes, Smokey Robinson and the Miracles, Stevie Wonder, The Temptations, Marvin Gaye, Michael Jackson and the Jackson 5, Lionel Richie and the Commodores, and many more. Today, the label is part of the Universal Music Group, with its classic recorded music catalog managed by Music Enterprises, UME. The timeless songs from Motown between 1959 and 1985 are represented by EMI Music Publishing.
Track 4.
Though the term eco, like eco-living or eco-friendly, has already become worn out, we have to face the fact that our Mother Earth is contaminated in all its parts and that we, human beings, might soon become an endangered species if we don't react quickly. I suppose that lots of you have heard that it is not just industry that pollutes the environment, but also the way we live. For instance, after this lecture, you will probably go home and some of you might take a shower without thinking how much water is wasted. Others may start the car just to pay a visit to a friend because it is more convenient. Is it really? Fortunately, some people have realized that we must change our habits. I suggest we should start with our homes. I know there isn't much space, especially in big cities, to build new houses, but recently there has been a trend of more and more people moving to the outskirts of cities or even to rural areas. This is a very good chance to build an eco house. We have been discussing this matter for some time and we want to present to you our ideas of eco houses. To begin with, these houses are pretty and nice. Frankly, the first thing people have in mind when they want to get themselves a house is beauty, and they want something eye-catching. They seldom take into consideration the terrible impact on the environment. When you mention an eco house, people often visualize a green wooden cottage-like place. Contrary to this popular belief, you can see the photos of 20 of the most amazing eco houses, though some of them you might have seen personally since they aren't a novelty anymore. As you may have noticed, they are gorgeous and quite artistic. Eco-houses are built from sustainable materials which can be sourced locally because if they have to travel thousands of miles, then it increases the price and the level of pollution too. If we could make it, they ought to be made solely of recycled materials and we would love to achieve zero waste. Second, these houses are totally self-sufficient. Forget about the enormous electricity bills or total dependence upon fossil fuels, which are diminishing, as you know. Our major goal was to construct a house that can run itself thanks to modern ways of heating and technological innovations as well. Solar panels are a must, and though they are still a bit expensive, you will get your money back in no time. Rainwater harvesting systems are also important. They collect rainwater and then use it for various purposes. Moreover, the house will be equipped with smart devices that monitor so many things. For instance, the quantity of water you use when you take a shower, or when you turn on the dishwasher. They can also see when you are absent to switch off heating. Lights are on the moment the sun goes down, so I may say this house is not only smart, but also very efficient. However, I would like to say something about its major drawback. It lacks space. The reason lies in the fact that the smaller houses require less energy to sustain and they have fewer emissions. But the good news is that drawers and shelves can be hidden unless you need them and walls can also move to make you more room on the floor. And for the aesthetics, the design you opt for should easily be blended into natural surroundings. So when you cast a glance on such a home, you see that mankind and nature are one. The choice, of course, will depend on the landscape. And I advise you to have a look on our website. You will be spoiled for choice. Moreover,
Track 5.
we've all seen cartoons in which animal characters talk. Cats, dogs, lions, tigers, elephants, or bears can express their ideas or feelings just like any human, and some of them can even write. Our pets understand us when we call them or tell them to do something simple. Although scientists have proven that animals can communicate and exchange simple information, can they actually talk like humans? We know that parrots can talk, but in fact, they just repeat and imitate what they have heard. However, there was a parrot who could actually communicate in a limited way. Alex, a great African parrot, belonged to Irene Pepperberg, an eminent psychologist who taught him to speak and use language creatively. Unlike many other parrots who simply repeat words and phrases, Alex managed to establish some sort of communication similar to human language. Alex could count and recognize quantities up to 6, distinguish a number of colors and shapes, and could compare the sizes of 2 objects. Alex had a vocabulary of more than 100 words. He could name several objects and could even ask simple questions. There are also cases of apes who managed to learn some elements of human language. The most notable example was Coco, a gorilla who learned some basics of American Sign Language. She did not actually talk, but she did use signs to communicate. She could use about 1,000 signs and understand about 2,000 English words. Unlike Alex, Coco could communicate about things that were not present before her. She could express her emotions, and she even invented signs for new ideas. It even turned out that she was as intelligent as a young child. Apart from Alex and Coco, there are many other animals that can imitate human languages or communicate simple information, but we cannot say that they possess the ability to communicate like humans. There are several reasons for this, and we will mention just 2 of them. First of all, many animals do not have the same vocal apparatus as humans, which means they cannot produce the sounds we make. Although parrots and some other bird species can successfully imitate us, most animals simply do not have the organs that allow them to make human sounds. The other reason is their brain, which cannot process information or think as that of humans. We can think about the past, about the future, about what could have happened, and about what can happen. We can talk about abstract concepts and use language creatively to express various ideas. The human mind is also able to learn complicated grammar rules and use them very easily. Finally, human language has to be learned, while animals use a set of symbols they know instinctively. On the other hand, animals communicate in different ways. Animals can communicate simple information, for example, that there is some food nearby, that they are in danger, and the like. Their language is a closed system they are born with, and it remains the same. Human language is quite different. We can always invent new words and talk about anything we can think of, while animals cannot. In fact, human beings will never repeat the same sentence in their lifetime, apart from phrases and expressions like, "How are you?" or "What do you think about this or that?" which is an illustration of how creative human language is. Finally, we can say that our intelligence and cognitive development are the main foundations of language, and we could not learn it without them.
Track 6.
Dear listeners, here we are again with our weekly talk on making a difference in the local community. Today's show is about something that perhaps not many young people have heard of: volunteering with seniors. Now, many of you surely help your grandma or grandpa with their daily chores around the house, or you may go to the store for an elderly neighbor. But have you thought about spending more time with the elderly? At first sight, this might seem a strange question to ask, but let us hear an expert opinion. We have Dr. Melissa Johnston with us today, a doctor who specializes in care for the elderly. Good afternoon, Dr. Johnston.
Good afternoon, Chris. It's wonderful to see you again.
The pleasure is mine. Welcome to our show. So today, we're going to hear more about the benefits of volunteering with seniors.
Yes, Chris, this is becoming a very popular trend.
And it will become even more popular after this show.
I certainly hope so. Let's start. You know how people say that rich life experience is of vital importance because it helps make up everything we are today? Well, just imagine how many valuable stories and lessons a senior citizen can share with the youth. When young people spend time volunteering with seniors, both sides benefit and learn.
That's true. Can you tell us what kind of programs are available?
Well, one of the nicest things you can do for someone who lives in an assisted living facility or a home for seniors is share some quality time together. Some seniors' health problems prevent them from getting out and socializing, and going for a visit will stop them from feeling isolated, while making a new friend will be beneficial. With facilities that you can call ahead to plan a time to drop by, or schedule regular visits that your new friend can look forward to. On these occasions, you can bring along a board game or a pack of cards, a care package, a video to watch, some music to listen to, or a home-baked treat. Even if you don't have a lot of time, a few quick, kind words can brighten someone's day.
That really does wonderful.
Oh, it is. But that is not all. If you have a special skill or a talent that you would like to share, you can contact the home and they will find opportunities for you to present it. Young people can also make a small project of their visits.
A project?
Yes, spending quality time with an elderly person can allow you to continue lifelong learning. You should ask yourself what you can learn from your older friend. Many of their experiences may surprise you.
I'm sure you're right. So what does the mini project consist of?
Well, basically, it's putting together all the information you find out about your new friend. First, you should know just what to ask in order to kickstart a conversation. You should discover their passions and skills and get them to tell or show them to you. If you don't already know the kind of career your friend had, find out. Find out about their hobbies too. Ask questions about their biggest lessons or favorite moments in life. Finally, record the memories in a photo album, scrapbook, or journal and encourage your new friend to sit and go over their memories with you. Write some stories or verses, use captions, find interesting photos, create small drawings, all with the help of your friend. That way, you'll be turning your friend's life story into a documented history book in no time.
That sounds very creative.
It is! And that's not all. In addition, you can create some artwork by turning the most interesting pages of the personal history book into wall art for your friend's room. Simply photocopy the best pages with photos and captions, then hang them up so your friend can continuously recall good times. Such beautiful artwork would brighten up any room.
Well, I certainly have learned a lot of new things today, and I hope my listeners have as well. Thank you once again, Dr. Johnston, for sharing with us such a lovely and healthy way to spend time.
No problem, Chris. I am always happy to inspire young people to do something good.
Track 7.
Alexander, the son of King Philip II, was really the Great in many aspects. He was one of the most powerful rulers and outstanding military minds who managed to establish the largest empire the ancient world had ever seen. Centuries after his death, it is hard to find such a brilliant, brave, and determined leader who conquered so many territories, showing at the same time excellent diplomatic skills with the people in these regions. Though he moved farther and farther, his dream to create a new realm did not come true. He was born in 356 E in Pella, Macedonia. The legend says that even his birth was miraculous and associated with lots of signs of wonders. Plutarch, a renowned historian, wrote that he was born on the same day when the temple of the goddess Diana in Ephesus was burnt. All the people in Ephesus who saw the ruin of the temple thought this probably indicated that something catastrophic and fatal would destroy Asia. Even Alexander himself believed he owed his success to divine forces. Another legend stated he was the son of Zeus, which made him semi-divine and thus respected. His strength and courage were obvious when he was still a boy. At the age of 12, Alexander succeeded in taming the wild and furious horse Bucephalus, which later became his devoted companion in numerous battles for most of his life. Such an endeavor in his youth convinced his father and the people around him he would become something special. When Alexander was 13, Philip called the famous philosopher Aristotle to tutor his son. It was Aristotle who aroused Alexander's interest in literature, science, medicine, and philosophy. After the assassination of his father in 336 BCE, Alexander, who was just 20 then, succeeded to the Macedonian throne and killed his rivals. The rebellions for independence in northern Greece were without success, so he secured his position and could start the campaign his father had devised before, to conquer the Persian Empire. After King Darius III of Persia was defeated in the Battle of Issos, Alexander went on to seize the Phoenician city of Sidon. Egypt was next. In the year of 331 BCE, he took control of the country and established the city of Alexandria, which still bears his name. All these victories encouraged him to move on. He marched on the Punjab in India. Some tribes were defeated, but he had to fight against others. However, his weary soldiers pleaded with him to return to Persia, though Alexander tried to persuade them to continue to march. He eventually gave up and agreed to go back. This was probably the first sign that the empire would begin to weaken. The death of the mighty ruler was near. In Babylon in 323 BCE, Alexander died at the age of 32, leaving his empire without an heir. There are two versions of the story of his death. One is that he developed a fever and died of the cause of the illness, whereas the other is that he felt a sharp pain after drinking a large bowl of wine and died 11 days later. In the years after his death, a series of civil wars destroyed the empire. This resulted in forming new states. We may say that Alexander's desire to reach the ends of the world and the great outer sea was almost fulfilled. Alexander is considered one of the strongest commanders and rulers ever. His military tactics are still taught in academies all over the world. His heroism, skills, and greatness will always be remembered.
Track 8.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our show. Our today's guest used to belong to the Amish community. He will tell us something about the way of life among the Amish and will help us learn about our neighbors. Hello, David. Can you tell us something about what it is like to grow up in a world without electricity, the internet, TV, or running water?
Well, I know that it sounds strange, but if you don't get used to having something, you don't feel you actually need it. Now that I have lived in a different way for years, I can say I like watching TV or reading articles on the internet, but I could do without them.
And what can you tell us about the education you had? What did you learn in school?
Our education was basic. First of all, we were educated in German, which is the language we speak at home. This may be a bit of a surprise, but that's how it is. Our ancestors came from German-speaking countries, and we speak German at home. You call it Pennsylvania Dutch, although it is just an old dialect of German with a few English words. We learned how to read and write, most of which was in German. There were no classes like science, history, or geography, and it all ended when I was 14. I did have some basic knowledge of English, which I learned at school or picked up at the market. We also had to study the Bible, and that's all.
And can you tell us something about the way of life in your community and what you liked about it?
Apart from going to school, I had to work a lot. I still don't mind working long hours, and I can carry out any task. Amish kids are taught to work for a living, and all community members help each other. For example, if you want to build a house, the entire community will help you, and everybody will work for free. Of course, you are expected to do the same when someone else needs help. This is nice, but there are also many rules that you have to follow. We can't use modern tools that will make our lives easier. For instance, we use horse-drawn carriages if we need to go somewhere or transport something. And it's not always pleasant to spend 2 hours in the cold without a windshield. These carriages, or buggies to be more precise, are very slow, and their speed is 10 to 20 miles per hour. Spending 2 hours in the cold just because you have to visit a relative is not something you would enjoy. The Amish community doesn't even use tractors, cars, microwaves, or telephones because they're too modern. Can you imagine that? And then everyone has to wear the same clothes, which have to be in dark colors, and even have to cut their hair by the rules. Women are expected to be silent, and most of them have very little contact with the outside world, usually when they're told to buy some groceries.
I see. And why did you leave the community?
I first started thinking about it when Henry, a friend of mine, left. He returned 1 year later to see his parents. He also visited my parents and left us his phone number. I kept his number, and when I decided to leave, I left a note for my parents, went to town, and called him. Henry drove 100 miles to pick me up, put me up at his place, found me a job, and the rest is history. The only thing I regret is that my parents don't talk. They think I betrayed the community.
Was it difficult to adapt to the modern world?
Yes. I didn't know how to use a computer, a toaster, a microwave, and the like. My friend had to teach me how to drive, use an elevator, and many other things modern kids learn at home. Luckily, I'm good at carpentry, and my friend found me a good job. I'm still working as a carpenter, and I like the job.
And how did your employers and coworkers accept you?
Oh, they were amazing. They knew certain things about the Amish community and have been helpful since the very beginning. They helped me adapt to the modern world, and we were good friends. We often go out and spend time together. They even teach me how to play baseball.
That's great. And now stand by for a commercial break.
Track 9.
There is evidence to show that people had attempted to predict weather conditions for thousands of years, but until the 19th century, these predictions were made informally. For the last couple of centuries, with the advancement of meteorology, formal weather forecasting has become part of people's everyday lives. In layman terms, Weather forecasting can be defined as the application of science and technology to predict the atmospheric conditions at a given location and point in time. Weather forecasts are actually made by collecting information about the atmosphere and using meteorology to predict how its conditions will change. In today's modern world, there's hardly anyone with a television or cell phone who does not check the weather forecast before leaving the house. Furthermore, we all love to check long-term weather forecasts when we're planning a holiday. But what about bio-weather forecasting? Bio-weather forecasting is a product of the modern age, and it refers to the relationship between atmospheric processes and living organisms, plants, animals, and humans. However, this connection is more than 2,000 years old. Hippocrates, the great Greek physician who lived around 400 BC, wrote about the effects weather had on people. The main purpose of bio-weather forecasting is to serve as a guide to how conditions in the atmosphere might affect humans and their physical and mental health. Its development began in the 1960s, when certain studies made correlations between specific weather conditions and medical diagnoses. And even though many people haven't even heard of bio-weather forecasting, and many believe it's nothing but nonsense, it has been gaining in popularity in the last few decades. This is not surprising, since a large percentage of the world's population is weather sensitive, while many suffer from illnesses or have former injuries that cause them a lot of weather-related discomfort. We can say that it is a widespread belief that people react to the weather. Weather sensitivity is not something scientists deny, but there are no studies that show all people react in a similar or the same way to specific kinds of weather conditions, apart from temperature and humidity. It has been common knowledge for centuries that when it's hot and humid outside, one sweats more, and when it's cold, people with joint problems suffer. But many believe that we don't need a bio-weather report to tell us this. Daily reports are available, however, and they predict the weather might cause health issues in a certain locality or region. And these problems mostly refer to people with heart problems, cardiovascular patients, asthmatics, and mentally vulnerable persons. These reports are published side by side with the regular weather forecast and are very popular in certain countries. They usually contain the predicted weather conditions and health warnings for certain groups of people. They also include additional information on what to wear or whether to pay more attention when driving. They even appear as simplified versions with emojis of smiley, neutral, or unhappy faces which tell people how they will be feeling on a particular day. However, some experts warn that this kind of forecasting is not based on actual scientific facts. Although it can be argued that there is a statistically proven connection between weather and certain health conditions, a direct factual connection cannot be found. The entire thing is very complex, and the response of the human brain is connected with the concept of bioweather, so the psyche also plays a role in the process. If you ask people who believe in bioweather forecasting if it can help them avoid certain health issues, they will most certainly give you an affirmative answer. They believe that it is good to know if certain weather conditions will affect their regular biorhythm. However, if you ask scientists this same question, they will not be so sure. And some even believe that such forecasts can cause a type of meteorological hypochondria, meaning that people start to experience headaches after they have read about the possibility of experiencing headaches due to weather conditions.
Track 10.
International travel has never been easier. Many people cross the globe in search for fun or because they have to go on business trips. And whenever we travel, we interact with people from other cultures whose customs and practices sometimes confuse us. Although effective communication in another language is important, it need not be sufficient in its own right. It is also useful to adapt to local protocol and practices. Let's start with South Korea. If your Korean hosts invite you to dinner or to an interesting party, it is likely that you will find yourself at a karaoke establishment and that you will have to sing. You may not be a good singer, but you will have to sing anyway. If you go to a restaurant, you might have to sit on a cushion and eat from a low table, although many restaurants have Western-style tables and chairs. Don't be surprised if other people who dine with you are silent. They simply don't talk much when they eat. But don't forget that you might be asked to sing just a few minutes later. Now move on to Japan, which is geographically close to Korea but has different traditions. For example, your Japanese hosts can invite you to their home. You can take the subway to get there, but the guy next to you has fallen asleep and you find his head on your shoulder. It is quite normal in Japan because many people work long hours and take a nap while commuting. Before you get to your host's apartment, do not forget to buy a gift because it is a must when you visit someone. But don't be surprised if your host refuses the gift because it is considered rude to accept it at once. Your hosts will refuse it once or twice, but they will accept it later and express their gratitude. When it comes to summer holidays, many tourists adore the Mediterranean countries and rush to Spain or Greece. They visit important places, historic monuments, and the like, but they also go shopping. If you're planning to buy something in Spain, don't forget that the most common business hours are from 9:30 to 1:30 p.m. and from 4:30 to 8 p.m. The opening hours of Greek stores are a bit difficult to remember. They often open around 9 a.m. and close between 1:30 and 2 p.m. Monday to Saturday. On Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays, they are also open from 6 to 9 p.m. Of course, they are always closed on Sundays. The reason for this is that both countries have a tradition of taking a nap after lunch, which is typical of regions with warm climate. However, if you want to buy something, you can always go to the shopping malls, supermarkets, and big stores that are open throughout the day. Even if you share the same language with your host, some things can be tricky. For example, US speakers of English who say their meal was quite good want to say that it is excellent. But in Britain, this expression means the opposite. In British English, quite good means that the meal was not bad and it could have been better. Another funny example is the word trainers. If you use it in the UK, you're talking about a pair of sneakers, but in the USA, it refers to people who make you sweat at the gym. Are you ready for some more tips of this kind? Well, even if you are, let's leave it for some other time.